You can tell me.
Hey, how are you?
Good morning and welcome to BlackUSA.News. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm late because I'm reading this book here. Y'all gotta hear this. In case you don't know, can I talk about it?
Yeah. Actually, it's getting ready to be re-released, but go ahead.
Scott Harrington is a beguiling slave who wields strange power throughout the tiny town of Gulf, North Carolina. He is as fierce a warrior as the African Shaka Zulu and as mesmerizing and complicated a lover as Giacomo Casanova. I had to look him up. He was a trip. Although he is emancipated by law, certain dark and dangerous affections hold him captive. He is considered arrogant and distant. His influence over the man who fathered and owns him as a slave is embarrassing. His sexual prowess is intoxicating and is proven to be poisonous. Some hate him while others fear him. Still, there are those who will do anything to love and be loved by him, including resorting to witchcraft and plotting murder. Slavery is his point of reference, and he uses it to lure, conquer, control, and exact revenge. His life is the clash between slavery and freedom, love and hate, peace and war, Christianity, and the taboo practices of roots, witchcraft, and voodoo. Love him or hate him, you will never forget him. Oh my God. Y'all see this? And we have the author right here, Pam Reaves. Good morning.
Good morning, Donnie. How are
Well,
you?
I ain't even finished. Chapter 31, A Woman Capable of Breaking Him, by January 28th. And this won't be long, y'all. Just be patient. By January 1928, Neil and Novella had made definite plans, and Neil was anxious to execute them. Novella was anxious as well, but scared. Yes, she wanted to be with him on a more permanent basis, but didn't want to hurt Scott. She was fully aware of the power she held over him. He responded to her in ways he didn't or couldn't with anybody else. He believed she could do no wrong. She showered him with adoration, no matter how badly he behaved. What a lucky guy. Didn't battle with him like Maud, had not walked out on him like Herbert or Walter, didn't leave on unfavorable terms like his daughters from his marriage to Iris, and had not engaged in a battle for freedom with him like Leosha did. Although he was good at alienating himself from those who tried desperately to love him, he was dependent on what he perceived as his perfect relationship with her. God Almighty, Papa's gonna die when he find out I'm in love with Neil, and he's the love of my life. I still get chills just thinking about that fight he had with Odie and Luke. Oh well, I just ain't gonna let him find out anything till it be too late for him to stop me. Odie tried to tell him up front what she wanted to do, and look what happened. Not me. I'm not saying a thing till I'm just about out of the door. Ooh. Pam Reaves, author extraordinaire, is a certified professional coach, published author, relationship columnist, motivational speaker, and seminar facilitator. She's management and has over 30 years experience working and thriving in diverse corporate cultures. She has been a guest on several radio talk shows, as well as a featured author and speaker at a host of other cultural events around the country, book festivals, and expos. To learn more about Pam, visit her at PamReaves.com. But we got you right here. Lord have mercy. Who was Scott?
As I said, Scott was this beguiling slave, an unusual slave. To be honest, Donnie, I remember when I thought that slaves were all docile personalities, but not this slave, not this ex-slave. And that's what readers will find out, that he had his own mind. He did struggle with that war of being emancipated by law, but not feeling free. And that was his life struggle. So, and what's interesting,
I gotta change my backdrop. Keep going.
Okay, so what's interesting about Scott is that although he had this love-hate relationship with the Seymour family, When he dies at the age of 93 in 1939, Scott still has a relationship with the family who owned him. So, as you can see, that was a lifelong struggle. He's born on the Seymour plantation, and James Seymour not only owns him, but he is his biological father. And that's part of Scott's frustration, that knowing that this man is his biological father, and his expectation is that he would be treated like his white brothers. But as we know, during that period of time, that wasn't going to happen. So that's where this story is intriguing. It takes all types of turns, and it begins the novel begins on the day Scott finds out that he is a free man. And it ends with Scott's death at 93, still having a relationship with the Seymour family.
Who is he to you?
Well, this is a fictional novel based on real life events, and the real Scott Harrington was my maternal grandfather.
Oh my God.
Yes. Not my great great grandfather, not my great grandfather, but he was my my maternal grandfather. My mother, Novella Harrington, was born in 1912, and she was Scott Harrington's youngest daughter. Scott Harrington was 63 years old when Novella was born. And Novella's stories about growing up with this ex slave is what planted the seed for the book. When late in her life, she and I were having a conversation about him, and I said to her, I hate his memory. I'm glad I didn't know him. And her response was, but I loved him. And that's what planted the seed for the book.
Oh wow.
Yes, yeah. She talked about Scott all the time. Very seldom spoke of her mother. Her mother was not my mother was 9 years old when Mary Marks passed away, but she always spoke of Scott Harrington. And I will tell you this: later in life, my mother developed dementia, and all she talked about was Scott at that point.
So she forgot everything except that.
Most things, but that. Most things, but Scott.
So you were compelled to have to write it.
Yes, I had a conversation with a relative, and she made the statement that my mother shared everything with me and didn't really share it with others. And my comment to her at that point, it was like this epiphany. I said to her, no, she told it to the person who would record it. That was divine intervention, that she told it to the person that would record it. Now, when I first started out, the reason why I made it fictional was because I didn't think I had enough information. So you'd be surprised what you do know. So when I started writing the book, of course, I reached out to some of my older siblings. The first four knew him. So my sister was able to fill in some of the pieces that I wanted to bring authenticity to the book. My oldest sister is now 91, but she knew Scott Harrington. She was 9 years old when Scott Harrington passed away. So she did know him firsthand.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Pam, you ain't nowhere near 91.
I'll be 64. I'll be 64 in July. And
Pam, I thought you
that's
were in your 50s. For years, for at least 10 years, I thought you was in your 50s. I thought you were my age.
No. But that's the blessing of all of this, that the creator kept enough people around for the story to be told in some way. And so I think sometimes when we speak of race relations and the system of slavery, I have a unique perspective because I've heard from people who knew a slave, my mother and my oldest siblings. And so I have that perspective because I was always hearing those firsthand stories about this man.
Did you go to Gulf, North Carolina?
Um, No, I've been to Sanford, North Carolina. Gulf is unincorporated, so it's a really small area that's very close to Sanford. Now, Sanford is where my father is from. And so after my mother and father married as young teenagers, that's where they were for some time. And then they also lived with Scott as well, being a young married couple. My parents did not live on their own until they came to Baltimore in 1934.
What else did you learn?
I will tell you some of the things that sort of irked me about him. um, from the stories, what I gleaned from the stories, and this was not her intention, that he was a distant man, and everyone catered to him. And for instance, after he was free, he still worked for the people who owned him at their mill. And one of his requirements was at 12 o'clock, my mother would bring his lunch to him in a pail. So at 12 o'clock, rather than having recess with the other kids, the teacher would tell her, Novella, it's time to go home. And so she would run home to get lunch to bring it to him. And I remember having another conversation with a sibling where I was irked, probably because I love to eat. And I was like, well, when did she get to eat? And my sister said she didn't. Also, my mother chopped wood. She washed clothes in a tin pail over a fire. Things that you see in those movies that are dedicated to slavery. So this man, everyone around him worked. And to me, that was that same spirit of when you were owned. Everybody else had to obey your every whim and not question you. Scott Harrington also was married 2 or 3 times, and Scott Harrington kept the same mistress through all of his marriages. So he was an unusual character. He never married the mistress, but she stayed there through all of his marriages. But he was an astute man, because when Scott Harrington passed away, Scott Harrington had a will. And that's interesting. I will not share that, because that's like what surprises everyone at the end, what Scott Harrington did to his family after all of those years. But as I said, my mother adored him. She absolutely adored him. Now, I will say this, when I was writing the book, and as I was doing research and talking to family members, I came to understand Scott rather than focusing on, I hated his memory, because I came to understand that slavery was his point of reference. And so he kept defaulting back to some of the practices that were in place during that desolate period. He probably also thought that he or wanted to be entitled to certain things because he knew he was this man's son.
So I keep going back to, what did you learn?
I learned how we could overcome anything, because I will say this, growing up under Scott Harrington, you would never know that my mother came from a dysfunctional type of situation, not even with her siblings. They all were determined that they would not repeat who Scott was. They would live free in its purest sense. As I said, he was emancipated by law, but his struggle was emancipated but not free. Obviously, he never felt free enough to sever the ties with this family completely. There still was some, I don't know if you would call it love, but there was some attachment where this relationship remained until the day that he died. And as I said, my mother always shared those stories. But Donnie, when I went back to do some research for another project, when I found the death certificates, I did find that family's name. I don't know what this particular function was, but I can't remember the name. But this person's name was on the death certificates of Scott and his two brothers. You know, so they were there, engaged in his life to that point where they had a role in signing off on the death certificates. Scott's in 1939. Now, during this research, I really found something interesting. I went to a website called Find a Grave, and I discovered Scott's headstone. Scott is buried in the same cemetery as the family. About 8, 9 years ago, there was a project where they sort of separated the cemetery by names. Slaves and Black people are buried in one part, and the whites are buried in another, but it is the same cemetery. Now, what is interesting is that Scott has this elaborate headstone, and all of the other graves around him, they have these little tin frames that have a scribbled name, but Scott has this elaborate headstone. And it says, thanks for 44 years of service and the name of this company. So this project that I'm working on, when I was sharing that with the attorney, I said to him, I said, I know my family didn't do that. You know, that we didn't have that kind of money. So they must have done it. And obviously, he is still on their radar because this is a fairly new project. I don't even think it's 10 years old. But in the slave and African American portion, my grandfather, his headstone is elaborate. It stands out from everybody else's. The others look beat up, worn down, whatever. But his headstone is this glistening marble, and it's an appreciable size.
Oh, you know, Pam, you stand out too.
Of course. That has to do with my platform, Donnie. And you know, my platform is living your life from a position of power. That's what my platform is. I'm going to be a powerful individual because I choose to be. I'm not waiting for anybody else to empower me. I'm doing that because that is power. I'm taking the reins. I have control and authority over what happens to me. Even when it's not in my favor, I still have the power of silence and I have the power of walking away.
What is the power of silence?
Let me give you an example. You cannot lose an argument you didn't participate in. You want me to say it again? You cannot lose an argument you never participated in. That's power. You don't have to respond to a negative conversation. You don't have to have it. That's power. The other individual who wanted to engage you for whatever reason and however they thought that they would prevail, you can't lose if you never had the conversation. So I know the power of silence. I know the power of walking away. I can't be engaged in something if I'm not there.
Whew. Okay. What is your hope? What can this mean for the rest of us?
It
Because
means
let me just set it up.
okay.
When you look around our country, I just saw where Governor DeSantis of Florida was in Mar-a-Lago. I was in Florida with Trump over the weekend. And these people were revering Donald Trump, very cultish, in my opinion. This man should be locked up. But there's some dysfunction among those people. It's clear. Anytime you scale the Capitol walls, there's something going on right here. Mentally, spiritually, physically. If you saw me on television scaling the wall, you'd be like, what's wrong with Donnie? And that's what we say about those people who scale the wall. Something's wrong with them. When you look inside Baltimore City, when you look at East Baltimore, West Baltimore, and the fact that we have all of these Black elected officials, yet our communities still look the same. There's some dysfunction.
Absolutely.
We have Blacks in prominent positions, politically, business, civic, social and civil rights, but there's some dysfunction. So when you look back in your family tree and you have made sense of what happened in your family line, what about the broader Black America, the broader white America, the broader America, and the dysfunction?
Okay. Well, I will say this. People who scale walls, people who go and sit at the feet of another human being, those people have no self-worth. If you have to get it from an external force in every regard, that means you are actually admitting that you don't have the power to do anything about your situation. That's what's wrong with those people.
Say that again.
When we say that, when they belittle us, or when you belittle another community, that's because you're trying to satisfy that void in yourself. You don't believe who you are and who you are. You don't love you, and you can't come to terms with that. And so the only way that you can try to massage yourself is to transfer the blame. That's what you.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Please keep on. America, I hope you are watching this. This is therapy for me, for you, for everybody. We have the therapist in the house. Come on, doctor.
Yeah. That's what happens. And so even when we're dealing with negative people who attempt to transfer that to us, we have to recognize what negativity is. Negative is less than 0 on a scale. So negative conversations, negative thoughts, negative feelings, they have no value. So why should we assign any value to that? They have no value. When they're negative, don't be fearful of that. Understand that whatever they have, whatever they're saying, whatever they're feeling, it has no value because it's even less than 0. It's not even 0. And so we have to understand sometimes when individuals are attempting to abuse us, that's because that's who they are. That's what they feel about themselves. And so they have to strike out at something, somebody, some community, just attempting to get some feeling, some measure of self-worth. That is why, in my opinion, you see the Trump supporters, even when he was in office, was still angry at everything. Your man is there. He's doing what you want him to do, but you are still angry. Why are you still angry if you have what you want? That's because it didn't fill that void in you. That's because it didn't come from within. You were looking for an external force to make you feel valuable, and it didn't work, and it never will. That's why they are still angry. I sit back and all like, what are you angry about? You know, even those who want to malign, minority communities. What are you angry about? Minority communities are still struggling. We're still being killed. What are you angry about?
I can tell you, because the numbers are shifting.
Yes.
It is stated by 2045. So is that another 24 years? The number of white people will be leveled out. the number of my of black and brown will be more. That is why
But Donnie, if
the
you if
numerical
you
the
if
numerical advantage is dwindling away.
but if your worth was based on the truth, the shift in numbers wouldn't be a threat.
And if you've been living righteous,
That's right. It wouldn't be a threat. So you're worried about the quantity of people rather than the quality of who you are.
there's a famous quote: "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." What's our perspective on otherwise good white people?
What is our perspective? God bless them, but don't depend solely on that. We have to save ourselves. It's good if we have them, but we have to save ourselves. We have expectations of governments, politicians, but it's still incumbent upon us to know our worth, to be the architects of our lifestyle, so that it doesn't matter who's in City Hall, the State House, or the White House. At the very least, we are okay. That should be your goal. No matter who is there, I'm at the very least okay. I'm going to do better under some administrations than others. But all along, I have been making decisions about my life and my family to ensure that at the very least that we are okay. Yeah, they may do some damage, but you can have a lifestyle where you mitigate their damages. You can only do but so much to me.
You mentioned self-worth. I saw something that I wanted to share with you from my Facebook friend, Kat Weaver. She says, "I'm not negotiating my value with anyone. I'm worth it, been worth it, will forever be worth it." I got to say it again. I'm not negotiating my value with anyone. I'm worth it, been worth it, will forever be worth it. Can you relate?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. That's why when someone attempts to question my value, I go back to the power of silence or the power of walking away. You're not worth it. I'm not going to accept it. And so it is not so. I already know who I am. I have a fail proof power source. That's what I teach in my coaching practice about identifying what is your power source. And I have decided that the creator is my power source. So if he is all knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent, then that's my DNA. I'm not, no one can take that away from me. If it emanates from within, it's harder for them to get at. It's up to us whether or not we're going to allow other individuals to value us or devalue us. That can't happen. At some point, we play a part in it. People know if you don't accept it, because if they can't penetrate, if they can do nothing else, they will leave you alone. They may try to say you're arrogant. See, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather you think I'm arrogant than you think that you can just have your way with me. That's your perception. As I say, self-love, that's not arrogance. That is acknowledging and celebrating your worth. And so if we don't relinquish it, they can't take it.
Pam, I got to take you back. You turned Valentine's Day into an incredible celebration. You named it The Power of Love.
Yes.
It was around, it was on Valentine's Day. Tell me about that.
Actually, that was an awesome event. I've had people to ask me about it, maybe one day. But the first year we were celebrating um, the power of love. And that year it was all about power couples and how those couples, they could achieve and they could influence their communities without sacrificing love. But as I went on, Donnie, my awardees, they became just not just couples, because that was really what I wanted to demonstrate. And one year, the honorees included a Black father who was raising his sons. That's the power of love, how that was demonstrated. One of the honorees was even April Watts. And April and I were having a conversation, and the way she spoke of her mother, I thought that her mother still was with us. And when I offered to honor her, she said, "You may not want to. My mother's transitioned." And my response was, "Are you kidding?" Because this proves that the power of love is there, still there beyond the grave. And so that's what that was about, celebrating love, all types of different loving relationships, and how that impacts your quality of lifestyle. You know, and some of those issues like we have in the inner city, when and people at first blush may want to characterize some of those citizens in a certain way, especially if there's an uprising. But I always say the common denominator is that when people feel powerless, they may not know any other way to deal with that than to strike out. And that's what a lot of that is about. I feel powerless. I don't feel loved by community, by government, but I will say this. Remember that governments and programs, those are systems. So don't be looking for hugs and kisses and feeling good from a system. That's not what it's set up to be. And so that's what we have to
Where do I look?
recognize, so that we're not so injured personally. They didn't help me. They didn't come before me. It was never set up to do that.
Where do I get my love from then?
You get your love from your loved ones. You get it from you. That's why we have to be introspective, and it has to start with us. That's why self-love is so important, because when you start there and really others know that you love you, they know that that's the only way to deal with you, to be in your zone. I love me. You can tell it by the way I speak, by the way I care for myself, and that I'm not going to accept anything less than that. And of course, you don't have to give it, but you are not going to have a relationship with me in any regard. I'm
So
going to make that declaration. Those are my terms. I love me, and you must like me. You must love me too.
even in the corporate setting,
That's a system. Don't look for love in a, don't
okay,
look for love out of a system. It's mechanical. It's not structured
to
to
love.
love you. And so that's where the hurt and the disappointment comes from. If you're expecting them to give you something that they were never structured to give you anyway, of course you're going to be hurt because you expected something out of them. I don't expect that out of them. I'm still in the corporate arena. And what's funny is that a lot of times when people come to me to ask me for something, they always preference it with this: "I know you don't care," but that's not the truth. Because they want to soften it before they ask me to do something. It's not that I don't care. It's that over the years, I've learned we are not in a personal relationship. I'm not going to allow this to affect me, but so much. I'm going to step back and I'm going to preserve me. You don't get to have that part of me. There have been colleagues who have come into my office and they have stated they could tell when I'm speaking to a family member, because guess what? They can hear the love in my voice. They know that I don't engage with them like that. I am friendly, I am respectful, but I have learned to segregate my emotions from the business at hand. Now, I will say, we as African Americans, we are emotional people. We are passionate people. And so that's something we have to work on. But that's why it's incumbent upon us, those of us who are learning some lessons throughout life, to share it with our community.
That you have.
Let them know that. As I said, most when you brought up the idea of corporate America, and so I'm sharing, that's a system. Don't get upset. It's not structured to respond to your every emotional need. So if you don't expect it, your disappointments are going to be few because you never expected it. You can't get to me, you can't hurt me if I didn't expect you to satisfy my every need. There's only so much you can do for me. And if I am uncomfortable, if I don't like it, I have the power to I have educated myself so that I know how to respond and I know when not to respond. So either way, I've mitigated, I've controlled what you can do to me.
Pam, we got to put your contact information up on the screen. How can people get in touch with you? Is there a website, a phone number, or email?
Okay, all of the information is at the website. When you read the back part of the book, that's the old website. But the current website is Pam4, and that's the number 4, NellaLLC.com. Pam4NellaLLC.com. All of my contact information is on the contact page.
And so let's go through your titles. Author, coach.
Author, power coach,
Power
coach, public speaker, masterclass facilitator, and owner of Essentially Good skincare products. And as last month, Donnie, I had my first, I was a guest lecturer at New York Bible Christian College.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So now lecturer. And we haven't set it up, but the students want me back.
Now, you also spoke in Florida.
Yeah. I trained and I worked with this guy. It was called Speaking Empire. That was with Dave Van Hoos. And so I'm doing a lot. I always say, I have many interests. I pursue them all. But the common thread is lifestyle, and that's why I say I'm a lifestyle connoisseur. I've become good at it, having quality of lifestyle. And that's what I want everyone, especially our community, to know. It is not reserved. The good life is not reserved for a select few. We can't accept that. If we don't accept it and we accept that it's mine too, then we're going to do what it takes to have quality of lifestyle. And no other group can convince us that we are not worth it, because it is not reserved for a select few. The Creator said that He came that we may have life, and not just have life, but what? We would have it abundantly. And by definition, abundant means a lot. So I'll tell you this: if you want a life of abundance, you're going to have some power to have it.
Anything else? What's next?
I think that sums it up.
No, you got a movie. Come on, tell me about the movie.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Actually, COVID has us on pause, but I have to say I'm super excited as to what has been accomplished. I had a friend who has a connection in Hollywood, and she was asking about if anyone who has a book they would like to be turned into a movie. So I reached out, and she said, well, it's not me. There's an attorney in LA. That's who I work with. And she says, I'm not going to make any promises, but send me what you have. So I'd already created this character profile of Loving Scott Harrington. And I sent that. And within 24 hours, I got a call back that they're interested. Yes. And so I started working with a group, an attorney in LA, and we hired a screenwriter. So Loving Scott Harrington now is the movie, The Emancipation of Scott Harrington. And that's when I decided I'm going to go back and re-release the book under a different title. So we have the script, we have the budget, and what I was really, really in awe of is that we had a financial company that was interested in looking at the film with a budget of $22 million.
Good God Almighty.
So they are, the attorney is looking at a major film. As I said, COVID has put a pause, but keep me in your prayers that things will be resurrected and we will get to the point of actually actually getting there. You know, we even had a director who asked to see the script, and it was the woman who did Belle. I forgot. I think is it Ama Asante, with the lady who did Belle. Some of the actors, and God bless her, before Cicely Tyson had expressed an interest in reading the script. So yeah, we had some A-list actors that at least were interested in reading the script.
Makes me think of Regina King and the work she did recently with One Night in Miami.
Yeah.
All storytelling. And Black women, this is your time.
Yeah. And so, as I said, I'm just hoping it will be resurrected, and I'm going to start looking around for some other alternatives. And and the attorney, he's awesome. He and the screenwriter, they gave me so much power when we were doing the script. And of course, initially I will say this, Donnie, everything was so foreign to me. I was just so overwhelmed in the conference call. But then, it clicked. And then I started, as I said, and they were respectful of that, my decisions and how I wanted the direction, the story to go. The movie is different than the book. And I like that because the screenwriter, I got to see it from someone else's perspective, how he saw all of the characters, and which is a good thing because, that keeps the book and the movie separate enough so that I can promote, the book, but still attach it to the movie. So, yeah, so that's another thing.
They better hurry up because you're not waiting but so long, and you'll do it yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, if those resources, present themselves to me, I'm a resourceful woman. I will, pivot in that direction. There's some contractual things, but I know how to even, bring the attorney into that because he could at least still represent me in that regard.
I'm sorry.
And as I said, he's been really open to my suggestions and my directions. The team was really respectful. They didn't just say this, we've been doing this forever, and you just sit back. No, they have kept me fully engaged throughout everything.
One more tip on self-love. Can you bring that home? I think it's something we all need to hear. Everybody, man, woman, child, black, white, purple, polka dot, zebras too.
It starts with you. Self-love is important. It's the way you demonstrate to others your expectations in your life. Predators know when it's not there. Predators know that. They sense that if you don't love you. When you self-love, you are putting the world on notice what it takes to be in your life.
One thing.
So be unapologetic about it and let them know about your unapologetic. I like that. But be unapologetic about your self-love and put them on notice. Don't be shy about it. Toot your own horn. This is your life. It's your life. Whatever your vision is, it is your vision. If they can't see it, if they resist you, they weren't supposed to see it. It's your vision. Take it, do
You
something with it.
you also speak to us knowing our tribe. We got to know who's for us. That speaks to the power of discernment.
That's absolutely, absolutely. With experience, you will learn that. As you know, you and I have had this conversation. I no longer go to everything I'm invited to, you know, and I'm not doing it just to have the numbers. See, that's quantity. What I'm after, your tribe should be one of quality. And so you get to discern and you get to be selective who shares your values or who has a value that you aspire to have, who adds value to your life.
Well,
That should be the simple formula. If you add value to my life, yes. If you diminish me in any way, no. It's as simple as that. Value added versus what diminishes you.
well, let me just say publicly, thank you for dragging me across the finish line with my first book, and for dragging
Absolutely.
me across the finish line with this next book, I Am Black Wall Street. I'm so glad I know you. I'm so glad you helped me. I am so grateful. And
It
people,
has been it has been a mutually rewarding relationship, Donnie. You have done a lot for me. And when I brought my first project to you, the response was, what can I do? And I appreciate that. Never will forget it. And you are one of those value added blessings to my life.
anything else you want to add? And Christine, I see you down there. Oh, she's not down there. We had a guest that was supposed to be coming on. I don't know what's they got them raggedy computers. That's what Darren Muhammad always say. But we can keep going. The book, the coaching. So the coaching. We gotta. What's that look like? How does that work?
Initially, it was relationship coaching, but now it's power coaching. And I will say this, that during COVID, I did, acquire some new clients because now it's really, with Zoom. I haven't done anything StreamYard, but the coaching is done via Zoom. And so it's been convenient for everyone. So that picked back up. I was just focusing on some other things, the movie and other things. But during COVID, since we're all being faced with some things, I've had new clients to reach out to me. And now, as I said, the coaching is dedicated to power coaching. And that's you living your life from a position of power, because that's what we were created to do. And that's what we have to do, and not be shy about it, not be afraid of that word power, be willing to exercise it, unapologetically. But, people will know when you walk into a room whether or not you are powerful. They'll know it from your power vocabulary. I say they should see it and feel it, because if it's authentic, it will demonstrate itself in every part of your life. Never fake it, because people will know theater when they see it.
Okay, Pam, it's been a pleasure. This is
It's
enough.
always a pleasure.
This is enough, and this is a great way to start off a powerful week. I wrote this morning, no procrastination, just do it now. We
Yes.
and COVID is an excellent time. That's what I found. We
Oh,
find
yes.
ourselves secluded, and I don't mind being. I stay to myself half the time anyway. And who wants to be around nasty people that don't wear masks and
Absolutely.
coughing and touching every daggone thing. That's why I don't really want to go to the restaurants. Too much touching, too much stuff.
Right.
I go in the store, don't touch nothing. I see
Yeah.
people hands. When I go to open the door, I got something on my hand, but people just touch it. And the kids, they letting the kids just touch everything, and fingers in their mouth,
Yeah.
and they touching
Yeah.
doorknobs. It's like, oh, it's too much.
Donnie, I really wish that people would focus on that. If you are unfortunate That's a long, painful, and lonely death.
Could you
Don't take
repeat
it for
that?
granted. That's a long, painful, and lonely death, COVID. And so maybe we need to show more pictures of people suffering from that. I want to, and I am determined, I'm coming out on the other side of this. And so if I have to be locked down for a while, and this period, I counted it as a blessing. I was able to step back, take the time, reassess the business, reassess how I need to redirect my energies, and just look at the future in a different way. And so we should have been taking that time when we were sheltered in place to really think about what is necessary and what we just desired. I came to that conclusion. A lot of things that I have and that I was doing, I really didn't need it. And so I had this time over the year to really think about who I really am, what is important to me, and what I'm going to do going forward. See, we have to take care of ourselves because people are living much longer. So what are you going to do with this extra time? Don't rest on your laurels. Don't speak about being old. That one of the books that I'm promoting right now is a collaborative project, and it's called Embracing My Sexy 60s, with 19 other women. And so we're all in our 60s, and we have these different stories about, what life is like. And I bring up the number only for the purpose of discussion, but I live my life as I have always tried to the fullest. Now that I know, I have confirmation, science says that we live longer. I'm not thinking about retiring. All I may do is shift into something else I'm going to do. But we have all of these extra years. Start thinking about, plan for these extra years. What are you going to do with these extra years? They will keep you vibrant if you stay, stimulating your mind, stay active, stay engaged. Don't think about, oh, I'm retiring, in the sense of that I'm just going to sit back and rest on my laurels. If don't think about, okay, you may have been beat up, in the workplace or what have you, but you can do something else, in these years. All of us, we know more than we think we do. In times of crisis, that stuff comes up. That's why I say to people, we all have power. In a time of crisis, most of us have had this situation where we say, I don't even know how I came out of that, how I survived that. Guess what? You do know, you're just not conscious of it. It was always within you. It's just that in the time of crisis, you went within and it came out and it brought you through. That's that power that is there. For some of us, it's in its dormant stage. For some of others, it's in its awakening stage. And then there are those of us, it's full throttle. But all of us do have power. Power is not reserved for a select few group of people. Do not accept that.
I'm just soaking it up like a sponge.
Yeah, yeah. But as I said, anyone who's in their 60s, women and men, just don't focus on the number. Yeah, I don't. It comes up and it's great for conversations. Like I said, this new book, Embracing My Sexy 60s. And my contributing chapter was acknowledging, embracing, and unleashing the power of my 60s. And so I'm still fired up. I'm still fired up. I'm still doing great things. The good thing about this part of life, when we're younger, we have questions, all of us. What am I going to do with my life? Am I going to be successful? Am I going to survive in, anything? And guess what? At 60, all of those questions have been answered. I'm on the other side of that. I made it. I made it. Nobody can take that from me. I made it. I'm still making it.
What's
And
your
I will be making it.
What's your theme song these days?
I will survive. I will, I have this instrumental version that I play a lot, but that was what? Gloria Gaynor. I love that song, but that is my theme song. I will survive. But I wish I could change it because it's not only I will survive, but I will thrive.
I will thrive.
Yes.
No matter what.
No matter what. No matter what. No matter what.
Nobody foresaw a pandemic.
No.
Well, well, they've been making movies about pandemic for a while,
Yeah.
but in the here and now, when it finally is here in our face,
it changed everything. And I would recommend that do not expect us to go back to life as it was. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And to be honest, I don't even want it to happen. I think that we have become so accustomed to what was abnormal that we started to accept some things. That's what happened the last year, the last 4 years in the White House. Things have become, and look at like some of the forefront politicians now. Things have become so abnormal that we were accepting that. And so now, there's a correcting factor. So the creator decided, and what was natural, shut it down. And so it would be a missed opportunity if you didn't go back and reassess and starting with yourself. Not everybody's, but it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't go back and reassess self.
Have you ever noticed, and my thought is for you to respond to the broader Black America, have you ever thought how we are, according to the numbers, 13% of America's population, Black people, 13% of the population, but yet we're dominant in any and every industry, discipline, field that we get into. And I heard it said years ago, I can't remember who said it, we are the moral conscience of America. It might have been Dr. King. We are the moral conscience, that part of our assignment is to keep the others, including those quote unquote in power, morally correct.
I see that. I see that because just think about all of the powerful Black speakers, preachers and teachers and coaches. I mean, almost nobody can touch souls like we can, and that's innate. I mean, not everybody is a trained speaker, but there you can go in any neighborhood and find somebody Black who can speak to every need in a situation, and so we may be the conscience of America, and there's nothing wrong with that because God knows we've been through enough that we can tell some of everything about, we can talk to some of what it is to be at the bottom, forced to be at the bottom, but someone once said, no people in the US have been called upon to endure what we have been called upon to endure. And I would extend that with the Maya Angelou situation, but still we rise. No people, I don't care how bad it gets, how many horrible news stories we hear, you still have hidden figures coming out all the time, but we have to change that so that they are no longer hidden figures. We dominate, Donnie, because I believe that subconsciously we know it isn't fair, but we do know we have to be better. And so that's what we do. We train ourselves. We become more disciplined. We know that others are going to have certain thoughts about us. And that's okay. I can't control what you think, but I can control how I respond. And so knowing that we have to be better, knowing that we have to work harder, that becomes our leverage. So don't be afraid to use it. It may not be fair. It sometimes it's burdensome to think, oh, why do I have to be better? Why do I have to work harder? But guess what? That's your leverage. But I will also say this: there's danger in complacency. And when they become complacent, they become sloppy. And that is the downfall. So allow those people who want to be complacent and take everything for granted, allow them to stay in that dangerous zone of complacency. But we will still continue with our spirit of excellence. What you mean to harm us will actually be our leverage. So
Pam,
we're dominating because we know we have to be that way. We have to be better. So we have to be better, and so we're going to be better.
I hope you get $1 million in sales from this interview. Pam, we love you dearly. We're going to get up out of here.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For those who want to say thank you, you've touched somebody out there. You always touch me, but I know you've touched somebody. I see Leroy out there commenting. Margaret, Afiki, Ogotu, David Claiborne, Rico Crawley, Angela Marshall. Those are just the ones that wrote something. If you got that many, then 90 times as many want to say something. So thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you for the platform. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Good deal. Have a powerful day, everybody. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it, or gots to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning. Thanks, Pam.